What is up guys, Speed here, and today I'm going to be going over VP versus VG. This was quite a while ago, Dream League Season 11 Grand Finals, but in this game in particular, I think there were some great examples in when you should actually look to take Rosh, specifically by VG, and what you should do with Roshan and with Aegis, because I think this is a concept that is so confusing. It's so confusing. Players even at the top level, most immortals, have no idea what to do with Roshan. Even pro teams, I think, are often lost on what is exactly proper to do with Aegis, and I'm not sure myself. So in this video, we're going to look at VG versus VP and try to break down what the major winning team did with Aegis to maximize value and to force the advantage, but not too hard. So let's do our best to break down one of the most complicated concepts of Dota. Now, before we hop into the main content of this video, I just want to let you guys know that you can check out guides just like this one, made by top tier pros, and have over thousands of different options over at GameLeap.com. Now, let's get into the main video. First, let's know what VG does actually to secure the Roshan and to kind of make sure that they don't get contested, or at least heavily contested. So VG knows that their integral Rosh heroes are Morphling and Venge, with Medallion and level 4 Wave of Terror. Also, while having Oracle disarm the Rosh in addition with 2 urns is not that difficult. Also, kind of an interesting play that they make is that VG sends their DP and their Spirit out into the lanes to push out the lanes and hunt, drawing away all suspicion from Rosh if VP didn't have wards in the area. So if you look at it closely here, Death Prophet pushing out top. Death Prophet is a very good Roshan hero, right? So if she's off the map, there's going to be even a larger suspicion that they're actually Roshing. But she's off the map, and Earth Spirit is also kind of hunting, looking around. And if they have a vision on him, which they now do, they're not going to expect this Roshan. You can tell VG's even a little hesitant, but at the end of the day, they're able to pick it up without gaining a lot of suspicion from VP. What's interesting about this Aegis is that they actually never really push high ground with it. In fact, they primarily use it to take the outer objectives and gain map control. It's important to note that VG understands that this game is very fragile, right? They're playing against a PL. PL is easily one of the best late game carries in the game, meaning that this game is more fragile than your typical Dota game. One bad move and they can get run over despite their kill lead. You have to approach high ground very carefully. If Morphling gets Aegis popped trying to push high ground, there's a good chance VP can set up on him with a Shackles, a Disruption, a Ravage, whatever it is. They're going to disable him, and even if they don't kill him, they're going to force him to full strength, and it's going to make him completely unable to fight and probably get the rest of his team killed trying to save him. VG knows and fully understands that Morphling is the only hero that can actually deal with PL in this game, right? Even in the late game, Morphling is the only hero that has a chance of manning up to PL, right? Venge does nothing, Earth Spirit does nothing, Oracle does nothing, and Death Prophet does very, very little. So they need this Morphling to have a perfect game. He actually never dies in this game. That just goes to show how much they actually protect him, and a reason why they wouldn't throw this Aegis up onto the high ground, right? I think most teams would just see this advantage. They would see a PL who is not nearly close to his late game peak timing, and they'd run high ground, forcing it, and it would most likely not work out. There's Shadow Demon Poison spam, Gush spam, Razor spam, and Ether Shock spam. There's just way too much to go high ground, and they understand this and play it properly. You'll notice the positions in which they play are actually on the bottom side of the map. This is very interesting because a lot of teams, especially on Radiant, they'll play in the enemy safe lane, but you'll notice here that the only objective for them to take left is the Shrine, which obviously they can't take yet. No tier 3s down. So instead what they do is they play around the final 2 objectives that they can actually get. Now, if this tier 2 tower was still up, I think that would be their best objective. That's probably what they would try to take. However, it's not, so they're going to look to get map control over these 2 lanes, push these 2 in, and then overall take 2/3 of the map farm, right? If you have 2 lanes pushing in, it's naturally approximately 2/3 of the farm on the map. So that is going to be their objective. VG likes to play very safe. You notice they're basically 5-manning. Earth Spirit not here, but they managed to get pickoffs. Now forcing the objective as their team catches up. So they're not forcing high ground, they're simply forcing tier 2s and looking to get vision up in this area. Once again, now shifting over to the mid tier 2. Very careful play, right? They could have gone for the bottom tier 2 into the bottom tier 3, but instead, very carefully, taking the game slow, step by step, and amassing a 4k gold lead, right? Around the time of Roshan, they only had a 1k gold lead, but by taking over 2 lanes and not forcing high ground and feeding, they're able to amass a 4k gold lead. In fact, the Earth Spirit actually did farm top lane too. That's something you can do to maximize efficiency when you have Aegis, which is send your support to the opposite side of the map, right? Allow him to farm the hard farm, and then after that you spend the 4 strongest or close to the strongest, probably outside of your position 5, to the bottom and mid lane to secure those last towers, and if the enemy team tries to fight, you have a hard carry with Aegis. So going into this next Rosh, let's look at some of the factors that would allow them to take this. They're actually now behind on net worth. Vici, being a very slow team, doesn't like to push their leads too hard. They just like to chill, make the most calculated plays possible, and here their calculated play is a Morphling BKB, right, 10 second, fresh, and a DP BKB. Now hers is only 9 seconds, but the point stands, right? A long BKB timer, where the enemy team, they do have Heart PL and Razor BKB as well. Also even Shadow Shaman BKB, pretty insane. But their main core, their hardest carry core, just got his BKB, right? This is the most important hero in the game, as we talked about. He's the only hero that can deal with PL, or at least become the PL and try to kill off all of VP. So him being strong and reaching a spike in power would be a timing for them to actually go for Roshan. In addition, you should look at their positioning here, right? They know the enemy Tidehunter can initiate at any time with this Blink Dagger, right? So they have to be very, very careful. They're not having every hero inside the pit. I think a lot of Death Prophets would even consider ulting for this Roshan, but she's being very careful, understanding that her positioning determines basically how this fight is going to go or not. Now that it's getting low, she comes in to finish it off, and kind of a nice sneaked Rosh by Vici. Also something to consider is that they actually do have a Vengeful Spirit, and I said this in the first Roshan, but having a hero such as Venge allows you to actually take Roshans in situations where you have less vision. If you take way too long to kill Rosh, it will lose you the game. Enemy teams will figure out over time, especially in pubs, it will take them typically longer, but if you do not have a Roshan hero such as Slardar, or Drow, or Venge, any of these like solid Roshan heroes, it's going to take too long and not be worth it. So in this game in particular, they're able to force it because they have this Venge. So if you are playing in a team setting, keep in mind that Roshan is not always actually an objective if you don't have the proper Rosh heroes, as it will drop you low and often push you out of position. So this next Rosh is actually very interesting, what they actually do with it, I should say Aegis, because you would think maybe this time they're going to force high ground, right? BKB, Linken's, Ethereal Blade, all done on the Morphling, but the problem is, what can happen when going high ground? Let's talk about basic positioning when going high ground. It's very easy, if I zoom out a little bit, it's very easy to get flanked, right? You can set anyone up here, they can have the Tide with one ward here or here from VP, either on the high ground or on the hill, if they can get a hill ward, is going to give vision of all of VG. If they push mid, same thing. There's a ton of wards that will basically give full vision and allow VP to get the proper jumps. In addition, they have a Shaman BKB, so there's a 0% chance they can actually cancel it outside of using Oracle way too early. Basically what I'm saying is that in order for VG to push high ground, they're going to have to put themselves in a very dangerous position in terms of positioning. In addition, VP has one of the best flank lineups in the game. PL and Tidehunter love wrapping on the back line, so if they see VG coming in from a high ground push, there's a very large chance they're going to smoke around and catch out the Earth Spirit, the Venge, the Oracle, all in the back lines, and immediately end the fight. There's nothing the Morphling could do in response to that if they get a Ravage onto 2 or 3. But more specifically into this actual Aegis, this one's a little bit different because they actually use it so that the Morphling can split push safely. Right? It can actually be a decent split push item in the sense that it allows you to have your team respond if they do catch you out. Besides a few couple pickoffs, they still are unable to actually force the high ground due to glyphs and a buyback. They're really trying their hardest, but it's just such a hard objective to take. So what's another option? Split pushing, as I just mentioned. The Morphling stays bottom, the rest of his team goes top, and this is one way you can get your team, even with an Aegis, right? Split pushing, even with an Aegis, can be an option. This is one way where not only can you get some Rax damage in a tier 3 tower, but also, what did they get here? A PL TP. That is the most important part. This is one way you can actually force a good fight as a hard carry with Aegis. If you do communicate with your team, right? If your team goes too heavy in and commits too hard while you're split pushing, they're just going to die. However, even if they do die, you're going to get a Rax, which is a huge objective in a game like this. And as a result, Vici, due to some nice spellcasting and a PLTP, are able to take a good fight. Right, this is all they get from the Aegis, right? They get 2 tier 3 towers and a slight net worth lead, right? Back from 0, from even, to 5k. So once again, they are very disciplined with their Aegis. They use it to push in lanes, maybe even split, force a TP back on the high ground, push from Morphling, and then take an advantageous fight as a result. This is very disciplined play, and I think it's something that, especially in pubs, you will never see, but hopefully you can dictate your team to actually imply some of these strategies. Alright, here is the final Aegis of the game, and let's show what Aegis does here. In this one in particular, it allows them to force a lot of spells on the Morphling. This is basically why you have to be very patient and use Aegis to take game-ending fights. You notice Vici basically only fought with Aegis, and in this case in particular, he gets ravaged, he even gets snaked, and as a result of all the spell committal, VG is able to win the fight. So sometimes in order to end games, you can't just look at a net worth lead or like one of those feelings of power and say, alright, this is our chance. You have to play around objectives, specifically Roshan, get your Aegis, and then don't be too hasted to force it, right? Take a calculated fight. VP is clearly getting a little bit even anxious, right? They're even getting anxious here. And they take a bad fight, especially into an Aegis, and they're able to win a fight. So in your pubs or even in your competitive games, this can definitely work out, right, if you're a little bit patient. So before I wrap up this video, I just want to go over one more example. This one is from Game 2, where Vici just took a fight bottom, right? First off, before we look at this AM pressure, they took a fight bottom, Doom was expended, Serpent Wars were not, but most importantly, Doom was expended, right? So Vici knows that there's no Doom, and they just force this AM back to base. So not only that, they force them back to base right next to the Roshan pit. This is something important to note, right? In your games, if you are looking to take a Roshan at any point, let's say you have a good Roshan team, you have an Ursa, you have a Weaver in particular. This game they have a Weaver plus Desolator. If you ever have a Roshan team, you should be looking to set up vision and make smoke ganks around Roshan, because what they will let you do is, even if you don't get a kill, in this case in particular, the AM has to go all the way back to base, right? He has no choice. There's nothing he can do. And as a result, they're able to pick up a very clutch Aegis, right? This game is becoming hard for them, right? This AM is starting to get out of control. However, with a very smart play around the Roshan pit, they're able to pick up an Aegis and make this game a little bit easier. So that's definitely something to consider. In addition, now that they take the Rosh and they know the AM is unable to make a play, they find this Doom pick-off in the middle lane. That's something important to note as well. A great play that you can make in your games is right after taking Roshan, smoke right out of the pit. Then you want to invade the enemy jungle, the enemy mid lane, enemy off lane, doesn't matter what it is. You run around, you look for a pick-off, trying to push your advantage, right? I'm not saying necessarily go high ground, right? That's what you have to be careful about. Don't immediately force high ground, unless, of course, it's very clear that you can. But in most games, I really think that high ground is actually detrimental to try, right away at least, before building a net worth advantage. Typically, in most games, where you have like a pseudo-hard carry, or you're not something like a Drow strat where you want to end immediately, then your first Aegis should be more of a game-saving Aegis, especially if it's previous to the 20-minute mark, right? Aegis previous to 20 is a good indicator where you should be hesitant on going high ground, right? You should look at it maybe more as a farming Aegis, try to push your next net worth lead, maybe get the ability to take shrines, maybe just get a tier 3, take out the tier 2s, and set up for the Cheese and Aegis Rosh to actually be your game-ending Roshan. Now here, they're using their first Rosh, it's past 20 minutes, 3 minutes past, not that it matters too much, but more importantly, the Doom is dead. Right, so Doom is dead, they're able to take a tier 3, and this allows them to take shrines later on if needed. Now, kind of a messy back on their part. And they do get picked off, so I don't even have to explain, I think, why going high ground is so dangerous. It's so hard to disengage from. Basic vision and the ability to flank is so simple, right? The Doom TP's in on the shrine. the AM sets up from behind, it was very easy for them to collapse. The supports have to go out of position. It's just super hard to catch the targets you want because they can position so properly around you and actually be able to protect your support. So hopefully this video helped. I think it's a topic that a lot of people really need to learn about and really consider in their games more. Please don't consider Aegis as the ticket to high ground. It's not your ticket to ending the game. Sometimes you need to see it as a ticket to opening up the map, opening up the game in particular for the first stages. So hopefully this helped. If you guys enjoyed, please do like and subscribe to help the channel grow. And let me know down in the comments below if you think my ideas on Roshan are radically wrong. But if you think anything in particular surprised you or was interesting, definitely say down in the comments below, because I think this is a topic that is very weird, unexplored, and misunderstood by a large majority of the Dota community, including pros. So, alright, I'll see you in the next video.